Okay, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little Lego man, something kind of like this. So we'll start by grabbing our rounded rectangle tool. So I'm going to draw 3 rounded rectangles, one for the top of the Lego man's head, one for the Lego man's head, and one for his torso. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adjust these a little bit. So might shrink that down just a titch. Get that in the center. I stretch his head just a little bit. And when I do this, I'm going to do some dividing and uniting because I want all the pieces to be clean and not overlap one another. So I'm going to go ahead and divide that. I'll right click, ungroup it, and then I'm going to take these 2 pieces and unite them together. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to use that to create the little neck space between his body and his torso. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and work on his torso. Maybe make this just a little bit wider. We'll get that all centralized. Okay, so usually Lego men, they have a little bit of a flare to their hips. So to create that flare, I'm going to take my direct selection tool and I'm going to push out the sides here on both sides. And then I'm going to grab my delete anchor point tool. So if you look under the pen tool, you'll find the delete anchor point. And I'm going to delete these extra anchor points here on the bottom. But that still has a little bit of a curve here. So to get rid of that curve and make it flat, I'm going to take my direct selection tool, click on this bottom anchor point, and then I'm going to convert that to a corner. And I'll do the same thing here on the opposite side. We'll convert that to a corner too, and that will flatten out the edge for his body here. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start working on his legs. So for the legs, we're going to use our rectangle tool again. And I'll start by creating that little pant leg space. And then we're going to have this middle section here where the top of his legs are. And in between that, we're going to have this little dividing space that helps make his legs mobile. Let's call this dingle dingle. I'll get that right in the center. Okay, so on that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add a couple of anchor points to it because this bottom part needs to come in a little bit. So under our pen tool, we'll find the add anchor point. So I'm going to add an anchor point on the left and I'm going to add one on the right on the opposite side. And then I'm going to grab the very bottom left corner and I'm going to push that in. Then I'll grab the very bottom right corner and I'll push that one in. And this will create that little indentation there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'll select those 2 things. I'm going to divide it, ungroup it. So right click ungroup. And then I'll select these 2 pieces and unite them together. Okay, so now I've got these separate pieces here. And now what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to create the rest of his leg here. So we'll start up here, bring that down to the corner of his leg on this side and the corner of his leg on this side. And we'll just bring it over until we reach where this little slanted corner is. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those 3 pieces. I'm going to go ahead and divide them with my Pathfinder, and then I'm going to ungroup them. And I'm going to select these 3 cut pieces and unite them together. Okay, so then I'll create a nice clean edge there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rectangle tool and we're going to give him his feet here on either side. Okay, so now we've got his body. We need to go ahead and give him some arms. So to make the arms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a little rectangle here that's going to become the bulk of his arm. And then on top of that rectangle, I'm going to take my ellipse tool and I'm going to draw an ellipse here that will be the same width as the rectangle. And then I'm going to line up the sides of the rectangle with the corners of the circles. So circles maybe don't have corners, but I'm going to line those all up so that they overlap nice and neat. Then I'll select those two shapes, and then with my Pathfinder tool, I will unite those two shapes together. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to create a little bit of a bend in the arm here. So to create that bend, what I'm going to do, while my shape is still selected, I'm going to go under Effect, I'm going to go to Warp, and I'm going to use the Arc Warp. Okay, so I'll do about 25% bend on this. Have it on the vertical option, my horizontal set to 0%, the vertical set to 0%, and then I'll click OK. And since I warped the shape, I now need to expand the appearance. So to expand the appearance, I go under Object, and then select Expand Appearance. Okay, so I'm going to make a few little alterations to this to make it look a little more Lego Man-y. One of those things I'm going to do is I'm going to add an anchor point here on the side, and I'm going to convert that to a corner to make it a little more like an elbow. And then I'll take my direct selection tool and I'm going to push this side up ever so slightly. So we'll see how that compares to his body. We might need to increase the size just a little bit, make it a little bit longer. Okay, so that looks like it's going to fit pretty well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to create the hand for this particular piece here. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to remove the fill color off of that. So if I take my direct selection tool and click on the inside of this, I'm just going to delete that, so then there will be no fill color inside here. So with the direct selection tool, just click on get rid of the fill color. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ellipse tool and I am going to draw an ellipse here along the bottom, line it up with the corners of the arm here. Okay, I'll select those two shapes, and with my Pathfinder tool I'm going to then divide them, I'm going to ungroup them, and then I'm going to unite the two halves of this bottom oval together using my Pathfinder again. Okay, so this will make this kind of look like a macaroni noodle. Okay, so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create the hand here. So to make the hand, I'm going to draw an ellipse or an oval or circle. Okay, so for the hand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ellipse tool, I'm going to draw a little circle, and then I'm going to draw another little circle that will become the wrist there. And I'm going to take those two pieces, and with my Pathfinder tool, I'm going to unite them together. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this shape that I made. So I'll select the shape, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and I'm going to scale the shape down, and I'm going to flip it upside down. And with that, we're going to create the opening for the hand here. So before I do that, I'm going to actually square off the ends of this. So to square off the ends, I'm going to take my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle over the end, and then I'm going to go ahead and unite that together. Okay, now we'll stick that inside there. And I'm going to go ahead and select those two shapes, and I will divide them with my Pathfinder tool. Then right click to ungroup them. Select those shapes, right click, ungroup. And then I'll get rid of this extra stuff I don't need. And then I'm going to create a little bit of a rounded edge here for the hand here. So I'll take my ellipse tool and I'm going to put a little oval inside here. And then I'm going to remove the color from that. I'll take my scissor tool and I'm going to snip on the left side and snip on the right side. So the scissor tool you can find underneath your eraser tool. So after you do that, I'll just delete the bottom half. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the different parts of the hand and the arm, and I'm going to group them together. So if you go under Object, you can group them, or if you right click, you can group them. Either way, it'll get the job done. Okay, so while those two pieces are grouped together, what you're going to then do is we'll slide this over, stick it on the side, and then I'm going to make a copy of that. So hit Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to transform and reflect this other piece. So reflect it vertically, click OK. We'll line it up on the opposite side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the parts of the chest and the arms, and I'm going to use my Pathfinder tool to divide them. So divide it, right click, ungroup, and then I'm going to unite the pieces that should be united back together using the Pathfinder again. So unite those two pieces, and I'm going to unite these two pieces of the hand and the wrist back together. And then what we can do is throw some color in here, and we'll make it yellow. And the last thing I need to do here is throw a little stroke around those two pieces. And there we have it.